Hello everyone, this is Laurie Sand, and this is a short tutorial of my technique for weaving in the ends on a Tunisian crochet piece. This is a finished sweater in all just plain Tunisian simple stitch. I have here an area where I have seamed two pieces together, and I have two ends to weave in. I have one from where I started the piece and one that's the end of where I wove in. In this situation, when I'm weaving in, I actually like to gently tie the two ends together. Just making a knot right here, of course, would not be sufficiently secure enough, but I do like to put a couple of little ties just to maintain the tension, particularly when I'm seaming. I feel like there's a tendency for it to gap. So I just make a little knot. It's not super noticeable, and it just really helps keep that seam really firm. Then what I like to do, my big tip for weaving in the ends in Tunisian crochet is to try to stay in pattern as much as you can. You can see there are all these bumps, and I aim to create a kind of a wave pattern. I go down and I go up and I go down and I go up and I go down. So first I have to kind of get into a place where I can actually do that. I'm going to do that right here. I've located an area where there's kind of a down bump. I think you can see that on the video. I follow that bump, and then I find a loop here, and then I find a second loop, and I go up. Then I find a loop kind of going, a bump going the other way that's taking me back down again. And I follow that, and I go through this loop, and then back through the same loop that I went through at first before. This can be kind of hard to see, so I'm going to do it several times to show you what I mean. I'm looking for this, I'm going to follow this curve that's showing me how to stay in pattern. Up through 1 and 2. And notice I went back up through the same loop I went down through before. Then I'm finding my next loop down and back down through that the same loop as the previous stitch that I made. And I just continue doing that, continuing in this up and down wave pattern. Some other things to think about while you're doing this is to try to maintain tension. So I'm trying to keep the tension of my end yarn roughly the same as the tension of the yarn that I'm trying to mimic. If you're familiar with weaving in the ends and knitting, this is very similar. It's basically identical. Then when I get so I don't actually have enough to leave it in my needle to turn, I'll just put in my needle where I want it to go, and then I will quickly slip the yarn in there and just keep going. I want to weave in as much of the end as possible. The advantages of this kind of weaving in are twofold, I guess I would say. One being, I think it looks pretty nice. I think it really fits in with the overall look of the back. The other is because you're kind of going up and down and back and forth the way you are, is it's going to be extremely secure. Like this yarn tail is not going anywhere. It is not going to come out. And then I guess the third thing is that it's maintaining the elasticity of your piece. It's not going to be limited by the length of a straight piece of yarn that has been woven in. And then I would go back through and do this other end as well in a similar way. What if you have had to add yarn in the middle of a piece? As I have done here, I ran out of yarn, I had to join in a new ball. When I'm doing Tunisian crochet, and most other projects too actually, I usually just make an overhand knot like this, and then I'll wait to weave in the ends later. In normal single crochet or whatever, you can sometimes just crochet over the ends to secure them, but that's not really possible in Tunisian crochet. So I'll just gently untie the knot. And once I have it untied, I can kind of look at how this is constructed. I can see where this yarn is coming from. I can see where this yarn is going to. And when I weave in these ends, I try to swap them and kind of retrace my steps to stay in pattern and just to make it pretty secure. So I'm going to kind of follow this thread back a little bit. As you can see, this was actually a section of single crochet that I did as kind of an edging. But that doesn't really matter. It's kind of the same regardless. And then once I've kind of gone back a little ways, following the other piece, I go down looking for a way to do my up and down motion. I'm looking for these curves that I'm going to follow, right? And I just continue doing that like this. It's pretty forgiving. As long as you're mostly doing this up and down motion, you're going to end up with something that looks not too bad. That's going to be secure, that's going to mostly be in pattern, and it's going to be elastic. And that's the important element. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just don't be weaving in your ends just straight or on the side that's actually going to be visible. So in this case, I have kind of a contrasting color here for part of the time. So it's a little visible on this side, although as you can see, it's still in pattern. And then on the right-hand side, it is really not visible at all. You can see a little bit through the center there, but it is for the most part not visible on the right side. I know most people don't want to weave in the ends. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and it's very boring, obviously, and it's kind of painstaking. But I definitely encourage you to carefully weave in your ends. It really helps make your piece look professional, and it helps it be more durable. And it's going to be something that whoever you're gifting it to, if you're using it, that's something they can enjoy for a long time, instead of it just immediately falling apart, as sometimes happens, and it's certainly happened to me. All right, hope that's been helpful. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.